Sup internet, I'm AutoJohnny, and I finally saw Snow White. Yeah.
You're watching AutoJohnny.
Snow White is a remake of the 1937 film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and is the latest in Disney's live-action remake. Directed by Mark Webb, the film stars the Princess Snow White, played by Rachel Zegler, whose kingdom falls into despair after her stepmother, the evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, takes over. She soon finds herself fleeing from the queen who wants her dead after the magic mirror told her that snow is the fairest in the land. Snow would soon find herself in the safety and befriends the seven dwarves, Dopey, Bashful, Grumpy, Sneezy, Happy, Doc, and Sleepy, along with meeting other characters on her journey. Now this video is going to be divided into 3 parts. The first part is going to be a non-spoiler filled section, the second part will be the spoilers, and the third will be closing thoughts and my final word on Snow White. So before I trash this film, I do want to give it some positives. So let's start with the big one. How is Rachel Zegler as Snow White? Honestly, she's not that bad. She sings nice. I felt like she stuck to the original spirit of the character while being somewhat modern, and also she is probably one of the best part of the movie. I like Dopey in some parts, especially with his interactions with Snow White. I also liked how they handled Snow White's death. Like, it felt somber as it should be. And let's see, is there anything else? I liked Whistle While You Work in this film, and that's all I got for positives, cause man, this film sucks. I started with the characters, so let's start with the evil queen played by Gal Gadot. Unfortunately, what I predicted in an earlier video about Snow White came true, as Gal Gadot is trying to play the evil queen as this over-the-top character, but she comes off very flat. Then there's Jonathan, played by Andrew Burnap, who astonishes me because he is less interesting than the prince from the original film, and that guy only showed up in the beginning and the end of the original film. This guy is just basically Robin Hood, even to the fact that he is loyal to the king, except Robin Hood robs from the rich and gives to the poor, while as Jonathan just robs from the rich and that's it. Oh, and as for the romance, it's pretty underdeveloped as the original film, and it's also rushed, which I have a lot of theories about, which I'll talk further into in the spoiler section. Then there's the dwarves. The dwarves throughout this film really started to get on my nerves. They are constantly moving, constantly pratfalling, slapstick. It's just too much. It's basically the equivalent of jangling keys in front of a toddler. That's what the dwarves are, and the less said about how they look, the better. And speaking of the visuals, you know, for a film that cost $209 million, this film looks incredibly cheap. From the costumes, I mean, look at Jonathan for instance. He's basically just wearing the medieval equivalent of a hoodie and a blazer. And then there's Snow White's outfit, which looked like she got it out of the Halloween section at the dollar store. The only stuff that looked kinda decent were the evil queen and some of the sets. Then there are the effects, which are also bad. Obviously there's the dwarf's designs, which already have been talked to death, although this shot right here is my new sleep paralysis demon, to the magic mirror, which looks like something out of a PlayStation 1 cutscene. And then there's the CG animals. As I mentioned in my trailer review, they tried to make the animals cartoony like the original film while still keeping them realistic, because this is a live action film, which makes them slightly uncanny. Then there's the pacing of the film. Now keep in mind, this film is roughly 26 minutes longer than the original film. And yes, I calculated. And yeah, it felt like 2.5 hours. It just drags on at some points, especially in the middle. Let's see, what else is there? There's the music. Oh yeah, the music. The music in this musical pretty much sucks. Counted, I only like just one song from this film, and the rest is trash. Okay, let me break this down. The original film had the following songs: I'm Wishing, The One Song, With a Smile and a Song, Whistle While You Work, Hi Ho, The Washing Song, The Silly Song, and Someday My Prince Will Come. Now, the remake cut out the following: I'm Wishing, the One Song, With a Smile and a Song, the Washing Song, and Someday My Prince Will Come. Now granted, I heard they played an instrumental version of Someday My Prince Will Come, but I didn't hear it. Anyways, getting back on track. They cut out those songs, then added a bunch of new original songs, and the ones that they did keep were either retooled or something like the silly song was cut down. Now granted, I am not an expert in music, so if you like these songs, great, more power to you. But to me, I find these songs pretty unmemorable, and they either sound like Showtime music or something out of the Ren Fair. Like, let's look at the opening song, Good Things Grow. To me, it sounds pretty boring, and it's just basically, gee willikers, isn't our kingdom just so great? Oh, and they also gave the evil queen a villain song called All Is Fair. And when I think of other Disney villain songs, I feel like this one lacks menace, and it also suffers from Gal Gadot's bad performance. Princess Problems. Ugh. I hate this song in particular. It's sung by Jonathan and Snow, and it's basically, I'm acidic. I'm an optimist. Let's sing about that. But what really gets me about this song in particular is that it's so dopey and sounds like a Showtime song that all this combined made this sound really annoying and grating to me. Then there's Snow White's Return, which is basically just the Good Things Grow but played only through the instrumentals and sung by the people of Snow White's kingdom and her, all with new lyrics. This song is kind of just eh. Next are the songs that have replaced the original ones they cut, with the first one being Waiting on a Wish, replacing either I'm Wishing or Someday My Prince Will Come. Like how they gave the evil queen a villain song, this song is Snow White's I Want song, while as I'm Wishing / Someday My Prince Will Come is an I Wish song. But when listening to Waiting on a Wish, I'm actually reminded a lot of Speechless from the Aladdin remake. I mean, both songs sound similar, and both songs see our lead heroine to basically break free from the roles and become more. Hell, they both want to become leaders, and yet they both sound really nice, but are both uninspired and feel more like platitudes than anything. Then there's A Hand Meets a Hand, replacing the one song sung by the prince, but this song is sung by both Snow White and Jonathan, and honestly, this song is extremely generic and forgettable. In fact, I had to look up the name when writing the script just to remember what it was called. Lastly, there's the songs that they kept but tweaked. First is the silly song, which I already mentioned, but then there's Hi Ho, which adds a bunch of bloat and is filled with a bunch of gags of the stuff which I mentioned I didn't like. And then there's Whistle While You Work, which has similar problems to Hi Ho, but the antics of the dwarves are more toned back and they did have less lyrics added, and thus I enjoyed the song a lot more. Okay, I've said everything I can without spoilers, so if you don't want to get spoiled, skip to part 3 for the conclusion. And for everyone else, let's get into spoilers. One of the contributing factors in the film's slow pacing has to be the story. The idea this film presents on how the kingdom was ruled by a loving king and queen, where it was all sunshine and rainbows, where there was no war or traffic accidents until the evil queen came along and set the good king away, and now everything's sad and gray, and now we have all the traffic accidents. There's nothing wrong with this, but by the way it's presented is very juvenile. Like, I've seen this idea done better in something like Robin Hood, which, yeah, this is basically just Robin Hood. Think about it. It has a thief who steals from the rich and gives to the poor, apparently. He's also loyal to the king and even has an evil ruler who takes control in the absence of a good king. Jonathan even has a band of merry men. Even Snow White feels more like Maid Marian. Outside of not having the citizens being taxed to high heaven, this is basically just Robin Hood. Are you seriously telling me that the best way to fix Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is just to make it Robin Hood featuring Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? And speaking of those merry men, Oh yeah, they're real. And these guys don't make a lick of sense. First of all, they're barely in the movie. Secondly, half of them don't even talk. And thirdly, they break the whole writing principle of show don't tell, as their characters are basically informed from being told who they are without actually being shown them. This all feels incredibly rushed. In fact, remember how I stated that Jonathan and Snow's romance seemed rushed as well? Because I theorized that Jonathan and the bandits were originally going to be the replacement for the 7 dwarves, but due to the backlash of not having the dwarves in the film, they sort of added the dwarves, which is why they're CG. And then when the leaks came out about the bandits and everyone freaked out, including Disney, they decided to cut them out as much as possible, which is why Jonathan and Snow's relationship seems so rushed and why the bandits are hardly in the film. Another thing that I don't like about this film is, okay, so remember how Rachel Zegler went on about how Snow White wasn't going to be saved by the prince or true love's kiss?
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Well, when Snow eats the poisoned apple and falls asleep, how is she saved? Well, like in the original film, Jonathan kisses her and she wakes up. So wait. So this film made a big deal about how Snow White is a strong female character, and yet she still has to be saved by a dude? Like, talk about not committing to your themes. Like, they wanted Snow White to be this strong female character, and yet they couldn't find a way to get her out of that without the reliance of a man saving her? And I wouldn't be so mad if they didn't just lie about it. God! Moving on, the climax is kinda weak. To give some context, Snow White walks up to the evil queen with the town people in tow to confront her, and the evil queen goads her into taking the kingdom back by force by giving Snow White a diamond dagger, and she wants Snow to unalive her. Snow refuses, of course, so the evil queen gives it to one of the guards and orders him to kill her. Now, established earlier in the film that the guards and forces are basically the townspeople that she sort of forced into these roles, so Snow basically talks no jutsu to them into being good and betray the queen. So it's basically like Snow goes, "Hey, remember when things were nice?" "Huh, yeah, the evil queen." And then everyone clapped. But then the evil queen tries to stab Snow with a diamond dagger, but she is saved by one of the bandits. He has this whole thing with a crossbow, but it is not important. Then the evil queen basically just runs away and cries to her magic mirrors, and she's being like, you still think I'm the fairest, right?" And the magic mirror goes, "Nah, Queenie, Snow White is the fairest. Get Which basically causes the evil queen to throw a hissy fit and break the magic mirror, causing her to turn to glass and get sucked into the magic mirror. Also, the magic mirror gets better. Then everybody wears white and sings "Where the Good Things Grow Again," and the end. Look, it's not like I'm asking for Snow White to walk up to the evil queen and tell her to get out my house and punch the evil queen so hard that she flies into the atmosphere like Team Rocket, but something better than this. Like, this is just dull to watch. Like, I was just sitting there in the theater with my hand over my forehead, slack-jawed, being bored out of my servos. Like, geez, man, talk about a weak climax. So Snow White basically fails on his own as a story, but what about as a remake to the 1937 film? Surprise, surprise, it's a bad remake too. One of the biggest thing on why it fails as a remake is because it lacks emotion. Oh sure, it has emotional moments, but the original film was very emotion driven. You felt Snow White's fear when she was running through the forest. You felt her joy with Snow and the 7 dwarfs singing and dancing to the silly song. You felt scared for her when the hag showed up. You even felt sadness when Snow is dead and the joy when Snow is awakened. In the remake, you don't really get that. Like when the old hag shows up and gives Snow the poison apple, you don't feel dread, even though they try to set it up with having a storm brewing over her head. Ooh. But all I was thinking was, Why don't the animals warn her? I mean, in the original film, they at least tried to attack the old hag before Snow shoot them away, and then they went to get the dwarves, but in the remakes, they just run straight to the dwarves. Or how about when Snow White dies? Yeah, they're sad in the remake, but in the original film, it's heartbreaking, especially when Grumpy, who is resistant to Snow the most, starts crying. Oh god. Want one more? Okay, how about in the remake when Snow is running through the forest? It's not scary at all. At all. Just because you have flashy CGI and trees going boo doesn't automatically make it scary. In fact, it makes it kind of toothless. That's another thing. This film is incredibly toothless. The forest scene was just one example, but when the evil queen turns into the hag, in the remake, it's just so tame. She just slowly transforms into the hag while singing a reprise of her villain song, compared to the original film where they used a lot of German expressionism, gothic horror, and it was just a lot of pretty freaky imagery that made it extremely memorable. Plus, she's not even as scary as the hag. In the original, the hag looked freaky, but in the remake, she looks like just some old woman. Look, by not pushing the envelope a bit and not scaring kids and being audience friendly, the film sort of loses its edge. And now, for some quick fire thoughts. 1. The dwarves have glowing hands in this movie. What's up with that? I guess they're more in line with the dwarves from D&D then. 2. Jonathan is caught and locked in the dungeon with the husband. He escapes by pulling the chain off the wall.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Number 3. Snow White eats the apple because the hag says it will sustain her on her journey to rescue Jonathan. Yes, eating a single apple will sustain her.
Okay.
4. No glass coffin. Weird. And number 5. I found the whole subplot of Dopey talking is weird. It has its moments like when the animals showed up, Dopey non-verbally realizes that Snow's in danger and Doc recognizing that is great. And then when he finally starts talking, it's just so strange. Overall, this is just a bad movie. From its underdeveloped plot, poor characterization, bad visuals, bad music, bad story, and overall just a bad remake. It's bad, bad, bad. Now, as someone who has made several videos talking about this film, I feel this whole situation surrounding the film is incredibly messy and a bit overblown. Sure, I didn't like the film and it's pretty easy to make fun of, but it is so bad that we really had to cancel the premiere because of all the backlash or attack the actors, especially Rachel Zegler. Come on guys. At best, he said some stuff that was stupid and a bit cringe, or said some stuff that misrepresented the film. Now, you may not agree with me, and that's fine, but can we all agree that Snow White as a film sucks on toast? Well, that's the end of the video. Did you see Snow White? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Follow me on my various social medias for my art and video updates. Until next time, I'm AutoJohnny and end transmission.